Okay, hello and welcome to our second edition of our show for 2025. And today I've got Adam Albright with me from Momentum Property. Adam, how
Present.
are you?
Good
A
buddy. How are we
very
all?
dear friend of mine, and also we do a lot of work together. Today we're going to be talking about 2025. Is it the year to buy property? And we're going to talk about the shocking trends. There are a lot of things been happening. And I did a bit of a rant earlier this week if people saw it about Trump getting in. So I might do a bit of recap on that because whatever happens in America affects everyone, including us here in Australia. That's the fact of it, right? So what I was going to do is I was going to start and talk about what's happening in the property market at the moment in Australia and how it's going to affect us. But before that, before we start talking serious stuff, I want to talk something else. So a lot of people have been reaching out and they've been asking, how did you and I get started in property? Because obviously both of us are very successful in property. We've done very well. And, we're doing an exciting project this year together, which is really cool because we've been
Yeah,
working
just
together.
in early stages.
Yep. And we're going to be
Our
doing
first big project together.
exactly. And it's very exciting. How many properties are doing? About 120?
Yeah, should be about somewhere around 80 houses and 40 townhouses.
Yeah, 120 properties, which is very exciting. And the thing is, it's all a matter of building your way up to that. You don't just wake up one morning and go, hey, let's do 120. You build up by doing,
20 odd
first
years worth.
you do one, then you do two, then you do five. And when you do five more, you do 10 and things like that. So what I want to do, talk to people about the possibilities because I'll talk a little bit about how I started, and then maybe you can tell us a story how you started.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you want to start it? You said you'll start.
I'm happy to start. So what I was going to do is I was going to talk about how I started my entrepreneurial mindset. So I was born in Australia. I was born in Adelaide, but my parents were immigrants from Macedonia. So when they came to the country, they knew no English. I didn't either. So when I went to primary school, I was speaking a different language and I got into a lot of fights. And my father, being innovative and wanting to make extra money, because he used to work at Holden's in the factory. And what he decided to do on the weekends, we would drive to Two Wells, which was a place where there was a lot of market gardens. And they knew some Macedonians there that had all these tomato farms. We'd go there and buy tomatoes wholesale. Then we'd bag them up in bags and we'd go to the markets at Port Adelaide and wait at the car park and open the boot of the car and sell a bag for $2. And my father didn't know English. So he said, son, and I was like 6. He goes, you're going to have to sell the tomatoes and ask people if they want to buy it. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing and so scary. There's no way. He goes, you're going to have to do it. I don't care. And I'm like, shit. So I get out there and start saying it. And people start coming along, buying tomatoes, patting me on the head, going, good kid, giving me tips and giving me positive reinforcement, right? For getting out of my comfort zone. And I was like, wow, I love this. This is so much fun. So I actually looked forward to it after a while because I really enjoyed selling and doing that. And I guess that was my start of my whole entrepreneurial journey of getting out of my comfort zone because I was forced to get out of it because, once you get out of your comfort zone, you can do great things. So that was the first thing I did is selling tomatoes illegally out of the boot of a car, right? Because we didn't have a license. But, I look back at it as when I first started, it was scary, but now I look at things like that with great fondness. You know what I mean?
You have to start somewhere, don't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Selling out of bad of a boot.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. And who knew that kid selling $2 um, bags of tomatoes would be, I guess, a
Sitting where you are
successful
now.
entrepreneur sitting where I am now. Exactly, exactly. So let's talk about your start. I'm very curious.
Well, George, I'm very similar to you. So I grew up I'm the fifth generation, believe it or not, fifth generation sheep farmer.
Hmm.
We grew up our family didn't have a lot of money. I remember my mum wouldn't even let us put the air conditioning on in the car. I actually had to go at it. I had a joke with her this Christmas time saying, Mum, remember you never used to let us put the air conditioning on because it cost too much petrol. She goes, I don't remember that. I said, well, I do. That's why I've got air conditioning in every single house and vehicle I own at the moment. So yeah, I grew up
Hmm.
as a farmer and then sort of, I wasn't too good at school. Like I don't think you were I don't know how you were at school, but I think we were pretty similar. And then moved into doing a bit of odds and sods. Didn't know what I wanted to do when I dropped out of school, and then fell into property and started property back in 2000. Left Melbourne in the year
Mm.
2000, moved to Queensland and started in the property business. And here I am 25 years later, still in the property business, doing the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I remember buying my first house because I knew from a young age I wanted to buy a house. And I was in my 20s and I just started the business and I was in Shepparton doing an event for this car dealer. And so you got everything going on. I'm running the event and there was an auction on for the house. And I'm buying my first house and buying at auction. I was a little bit concerned. And what I did is I locked myself in an office at this car dealership and I'm on the phone negotiating. I'm not negotiating, I'm bidding, right? And the thing is, I can't see what everyone else is doing. So I don't know if I'm bidding against myself or what's happening. So I'm bidding. And what I did is, it was in Adelaide. And I said, look, I'm a Melbourne investor from Melbourne to scare everyone off because Melbourne was worth a lot more money back in those days. So I thought that might scare everyone off. And I was bidding high. So if someone went, someone went to 150, instead of going 1,000, I'd go 5,000 at a time and just go up to try to
That's a lot
scare
of
them.
money too.
Yeah, back in those days it was. So anyway, I'm bidding along and people are knocking the door, wanting to talk to me. And I'm like trying to ignore them, going, shit, what am I doing here? Anyway, suddenly the guy goes, and sold to George Markoski, the man on the phone. And I'm like,
Got it.
oh my God, I got the property. I'm thinking, am I supposed to be happy? Because I don't know I didn't know how to feel. So I wasn't sure if I was sad that I bought it because maybe I paid too much, or am I happy that I got it? So I was feeling a little bit ambivalent, just not sure. And everyone's like, oh, well done for getting a house. Congratulations. Everyone's patting me on the back. But I didn't feel excited about it. Anyway, that night I sort of went to bed, woke up the next morning saying, it is what it is. I got the property and I started feeling good about it. And you know what? It was amazing. I mean, that property's made me over $1 million. Like it was really good. And when people say the price I paid, it's probably worth about 1.3 million now. And I paid 170,000 for it. You know what I mean?
It
So
just shows that if you just buy and hold, it doesn't matter what the market does. If it goes up or down, it's always going to
yeah,
go back up again.
totally, totally. And before that property, I bought a restaurant, right? And if you compare the property and the property kicked the restaurant's ass. It was less stress and it was consistent with the returns where the restaurant wasn't, you know what I mean? But I didn't know any better. So that's what happened. So that was my first property purchase. So there you go. So let's talk about what's happening in the market. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. So let's talk about what's going on. This is the housing market barometer at the moment. And as you can see, what they're looking at doing, houses, Perth, Brisbane, Adelaide, they look like they're going to go up around 8% over the next 12 months. Sydney and Canberra, 5. Melbourne, less than that. This barometer is interesting because I think Melbourne may actually go down. And you've got Darwin, Hobart down the bottom there. Because Melbourne's actually the cheapest capital city, median price in Australia at the moment.
Yeah. Which is
Like,
unbelievable, really, isn't it?
which, when you think about it, that is unbelievable.
Mm.
Definitely, definitely. So what's happening is we've got a big buffer when it comes to mortgages. So APRA have created a 3% buffer. So when you've got high interest rates and a big buffer on top of the high interest rates, what it does, it really throttles people's ability to get a loan. And the reason there's this discussion is they're thinking about making APRA's rules a little bit more equitable, because the 3% buffer is actually a great idea when you're at the bottom of the interest rate. So, when interest rates went down to almost nothing,
Yeah.
that 3% buffer is important because interest rates going to go back up. But when you're in the top of the interest rates, you don't need the buffer because they're not going to go much higher at all. And that's what's happening at the moment, is because if you look at the current serviceability, let's say someone can get a $497,000 property. Well, if they change that 3% to 2.75, then suddenly your borrowing capacity goes up to 507. You get that to 2.5, right? It's 518. And as you can see, as it goes down, so at 2.5, at 2.5 buffer, and the HSC help bet debt not including the assessment, it's 613,000 instead of 497,000 borrowing capacity. So imagine that. So at the moment, if you can buy a $497,000 property, if they relax these buffer a little bit, then suddenly you can get a $600,000 property, which is pretty cool.
But mate, I also think that once they bring these interest rates down, which they will drop sort of hopefully this year, mid this year, that's going to let a lot of people be able to open up some more borrowing capacities. But I think that's going to send the market into another surge, I believe.
Absolutely. Well, if you look at this graph here, you look at 2024, most mortgages are now investors compared to first home buyers. That's because first home buyers have been squeezed out of the market.
Yeah. And like even with all the government incentives, like in Queensland, I think it's up to 700 or 750,000 they can buy, but properties are becoming, your average property is becoming sort of high, high sixes now.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's squeezing a lot of the first time home buyers out as well.
Yeah. Now I want to bring up the Norway Sovereign Wealth Fund. See, Norway have got a lot of natural resources like Australia. And what they do is they tax the oil companies and all the companies doing the mining like 78% all up. And they've created a wealth fund, and they've got the biggest fund in the world. They've got a 1.6 trillion surplus in Norway that they invest around the world, which is for Norway's future, which makes them the richest country in the world. Now, Australia have got more resources than Norway, but our challenge is we give most of our resources away for free and don't tax them. Right? Which is crazy when you think about it. Because you look at global LNG exports, look at Australia. We're the second highest. Qatar, we're up there with Qatar and US. It's huge. But we don't bring a lot of that money back into Australia, except for a few jobs and things like that. So Australia looking at creating a wealth fund, funny enough, which is interesting, but they're going to invest in green things and things like that. But at least it's a bit of a start. So the RBA monkey is about to drop interest rates. So the banks are predicting that interest rates are going to drop in February. Because you look at the CPI, inflation has actually gone down. It's been under 3%. And the target from RBA was 2 to 3%. And we've just hit below 3%. Right? So that's looking good. The banks are predicting 4 rate drops in 2025. So I think what's going to happen once the RBA
help a lot of people.
Well, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge because what's going to happen is the rate's going to drop. People are going to get excited, jump into the market, and then suddenly another rate drops. People get more excited, and it's just adding more fuel to the fire. So I think what's going to happen is the momentum is going to be pushing ahead. So if you look at that prediction of Perth, Adelaide, and Brisbane going up 8%, that prediction there is without the interest rate drops being priced in. So I would say they're going to do better than that. But as we know, if we invest in the top 100, we're going to do even better than that because, last year, a lot of our clients got, not 7%, but 50, 100, 300% return on their investment in last year. So that was
pretty before the houses were even built, some of those customers too, George.
Yeah, I know. Which is pretty exciting when you make the money before.
I know that I've said publicly that I believe Brisbane will hit between 9 and 14% this year. That's that's my prediction. I know these guys are talking. What are you talking? 8s and 9s?
Yep, I agree with you.
But I think it'll be somewhere between the 9 and 14% at least this year.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Albo's housing target has been smashed. It's not even close. No. So we're still in a crisis. You look at dwelling completions, Australia is just very low.
And housing.
Well, if you look at this
building-
if you look at that red line is the housing target, and the blue line is actually what we've done ever since 1985. And there's one thing that's very interesting. We've never actually hit that target, even when construction was good.
Yeah, we were close in 15, but not close enough.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is 2015, construction was dirt cheap and no one was going broke. Everyone was making money.
That's right.
But what's happening is construction's collapsed and got that target now. We're not going to hit it. And this is the reason. Look at resi construction costs since 2016.
Yeah.
They've gone up. Building approvals.
Yeah, building approvals are down this year.
Yeah.
Well, down last year, I should say, 24.
Yeah. Yep. They've gone down. And then the official cash rate. See, record housing was when the cash rate was pretty low, funny enough, but not that low.
Mm.
Now you can see where we are now. We're actually right at the top of that.
Yeah.
And you look at construction insolvencies since 2016. It's actually an exponential graph.
Mm.
Dwelling approvals, down. There's the target, the green one. There's the black we're really up to. This is rents over the last 5 years, what they've done in the combined capital cities.
Yeah, and a report that I read today, I've just made some notes of it here. They're talking that rents are going to rise by between 4 and 5% over the next year. They've increased 7.8% over the last financial year. And this is the largest increase since the GFC in 08-09.
Yeah.
So there's some figures, like another 4 to 5% for the renters on top.
Yeah. Well, look at the vacancy rate. So if you look at the vacancy rate since 1979, the average vacancy rate is around 2.7%. That means out of 100 houses, you've got about 3 that are not rented, that are vacant. And that's usually because, the tenants moved out, they need to renovate or do something, right? But you look at the vacancy rate now, it's around 1%, which means there's just nothing available at all to rent. And when you've got low vacancy rates, as an investor, that's really good news for you because you're going to rent your property out. Like, for example, the house that I built in Manopara, day one of when I advertised, I got more rent than I wanted, and they paid a year in advance.
Wow.
Right? We advertised it. Took me 24 hours to get a whole year's worth of rent and more than I wanted.
It's happening nationally. It's not just happening in South Oz. It's happening all over the place.
Yeah. And you look at this estimated, JP Morgan estimated housing supply and demand balance. So this little beige color, don't know why they made it beige, is underlying demand projection, then the new demand forecast, then the supply forecast. And you can see the supply is below the demand. And this is the capital city population forecast. So they reckon Sydney by 2034 is going to be 6.5 million people, and so is Melbourne. You look at Brisbane, Perth, and Adelaide. You look at Brisbane and Perth, they're going to grow quite a bit. Adelaide, only a little bit, interesting enough. And then you got Hobart, Darwin, Canberra, but they're all going to grow. And this is the accumulated shortfall of housing in Australia, the green line. Undersupply, oversupply. We had a little oversupply back in 2003 to 2006. Yeah, so that is what's happening with the market. Trump's got in, and
he signed a lot of executive orders day one.
Yeah, I mean he's done a lot.
Signing away.
Signed away. The guy that from Silk Road, there's a guy from Silk Road. He got arrested and got 2 life sentences. Trump has pardoned him.
Did he really?
Yeah. So that's interesting. And Trump made more money in the first day of being president than he has his entire life.
Is that the Trump coin or whatever you call it?
Trump coin, yes.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit two minds about this because, being the president and monetizing that position, you know what I mean, It's an interesting sort of thing because
Yeah.
no one's ever done that before, right? President comes in, they just do their thing. Trump's gone in, created this coin. Now that coin is worth like $40 billion. It's a meme coin. It's not worth anything. Like literally worth nothing. I
It
didn't
went
even
up
know
to
why
like
people are buying it.
140 Oz or something, didn't it? 130, 140 Aussie at one
It
stage.
went really high, but it's a meme coin. I don't even know why people are buying it. Like the Huck Tour girl made a coin as well. Now, all these meme coins, you know what happens? People end up losing all their money.
Because you can't sell them, isn't that?
Well, unless someone else wants to buy them, but when people stop wanting to believe in them, yeah.
Mm.
But the thing is, how ethical is it for a president to get in there, sell a meme coin, make money off you, and then go, thank you, bye-bye?
Yeah, I'll take it and go.
It's just crazy. But look, a lot of the stuff that he's doing, the other stuff is pretty fascinating. So he's got these companies investing $500 billion in AI infrastructure.
Mm.
Now, this is the exciting thing. What he's done there is actually really good. The meme coin hasn't done any good for anyone, but that stuff's really good. So what's happened with that is AI is the future. And them investing 500 million to create AI centers and bring AGI is going to bring it closer. So they say next 5 or 10 years, we're going to have AGI. That's artificial general intelligence. When that happens, it's going to take everyone's job. Right? So
We'll still
that's what's
need builders,
happening.
bud, to build houses, and we still need somewhere to live.
Well, look, absolutely. That's the thing. The fact of it is, you always need somewhere to live, and that's the one thing that's going to be scarce in the world. But with AI coming along, the scarcity of everything else is not going to happen anymore. You think about it. Intelligence creates abundance. It does. Like, for example, let's say you've got an orange tree and you're going there and you're trying to pick oranges. You can get some, but the ones that are higher up, you haven't got a ladder and you can't climb a tree, you can't get them. Then someone invents this new technology called ladder. So then they can climb up and get more resources out of it. A bit like when they created fracking. So now they can use that stuff that's under the ground. They couldn't use it before,
Yeah.
right? So technology just gives us access to more stuff and makes everything cheaper, which is great. Because, if you're born poor, I mean poor, in the Western world today, you're still richer than the most richest king 100 years ago,
Mm.
which is pretty amazing in most ways. You know what I mean? In some ways, maybe not, but you got more technology, you got better health. You're not going to die from syphilis, hopefully,
No.
as they would have back in those days, right? Yeah. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into our private group and say goodbye to the big group. So thank you guys. Thanks for watching. See you next Thursday. And now we're going to go more intimate and talk to everyone in the group, answer your questions, and have a bit of a chat about what's going on and what's been happening.